I'm Jen. You're probably used to seeing me travelling up and down the country visiting every station to see places I wouldn't ordinarily see. As you might know, I had a stroke 3 months ago that put my railway adventures on pause for a little while. This is the story of how an unlikely activity has become a key part of my recovery journey. This is the story of how I become addicted to parkrun. This story starts last year. If you were watching the videos where I was visiting every station on the North London line, you would have seen that I was really struggling with even short walks. So my next train's 2 minutes away. And then it came to a head when I visited Kent and I had to give up walking up a fairly small hill at Elmstead Woods. No, I'm bailing. My fitness is not up for this walk right now. That was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call that I took seriously. Over the upcoming weeks and months, I just tried to walk more and generally be more active. I set myself a little challenge of walking every street in Manchester city centre, and I managed 95% of that. That's actually quite a lot of streets. I tried to fix my diet. I ate healthier, and for the most part, I actually succeeded. I got myself into not awful shape. A few weeks later, I found myself in South Wales at a loose end, and I'd known for ages that I wanted to walk over the Severn Bridge. So I got myself down to Chepstow and I walked over the Severn Bridge and down to Severn Beach. And you know what? It might not have been the biggest achievement in the grand scheme of things, but for me in that moment in my life, that was a massive achievement. And you might have seen the video I did of that. But that was just starting my exercise itch and trying to get healthy. Now the next logical step is going to involve running, and we're about to learn why that failed miserably. For months I'd had several friends tell me about this little thing called parkrun, and to be honest, from the outside it sounded a bit like a cult. Now I've never ran before, but I knew that it was socially acceptable to walk a 5k, so I went out and I did a few test 5k walks ahead of time just to make sure that I wouldn't be completely last in the parkrun. My test 5k walks were a success, so on paper I was good to go. I was good to go and walk a parkrun. So there I am, it's Saturday morning and I'm approaching my local park where the parkrun takes place. And I just see hundreds of people who are like in professional running gear. There's lots of people who are like stereotypical runners, and to be quite honest, that's quite intimidating. Little old me felt very out of place in that moment. Anxiety took over. Anxiety cripples me so often, and this day was no different. My brain was telling me that I had no right to be there and I should just leave. And on that day, my anxiety won. Nope, 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 no. So I left. I walked in the opposite direction and I just left. Winter was hard motivationally. Just at the back of my head, that parkrun niggle was still there. I don't like giving up things, and I'd given up on that day. But then winter passed. And there was a random Saturday in early March this year, and I just had a sudden motivation burst of, hang on, maybe today. But this year I had a secret weapon. Sarah, the glamorous assistant, felt the same and wanted to come with me. So we did it. We went back to where I failed the year before. So we turned up at Stretford. We made it into the park this time, which is with progress. And we was amongst all the hundreds of other runners, pretty much the same runners as last time, the same stereotypes. I was still feeling anxious. I still was like, run away, run away, run away, run away. But I didn't. And before we knew it, the parkrun started. And I got caught up in the moment. And I started jogging with everybody as they started. And then I kept jogging. And I don't think my first jog was like that far in the grand scheme of things, but it was the furthest I'd ever jogged in one go. And a point came when I needed to walk, and that's fine. But then another point came when I wanted to jog again. And that came to an end and I walked. And that cycle just went and went and went. And I'd be lying if I said there wasn't points throughout that run where I just wanted to give up. Like, there were points where I really wanted to give up. But I kept going. And I remember seeing the finish line. Am I enjoying this? And I went for it. I just gave it everything I had to the finish line. And then I finished. I finished my first parkrun, and I had enjoyed it. I finished my first parkrun in 42 minutes and 45 seconds. Now I've got no interest in comparing that time with anybody else, just myself. Before that, the quickest I had moved a 5k, which was walking, was 50 minutes. So that was a significant improvement. But my God, did that feel good? Had I just discovered runner's high in my first parkrun? I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but almost immediately I was like, I want to go again. I went again the next week. I had my baseline and I just wanted to go one better. My time was 39 minutes and 10 seconds. I felt good. I felt like I can do this. I felt like I could do anything. But this is where my brain gets a bit dangerous. How my brain seems to work is I have to keep improving. I have to keep getting better and better and better, and streaks matter and all of that. So I had to try and keep this healthy. I had to break that streak. So when I went for the third time, I intentionally went slower. I was closer to my first time. Weirdly a healthy thing to do for me. I'm glad I didn't go faster again, because that would have broke me. Turns out that breaking me was just around the corner anyway. The next week I had a 6-day epic Scottish filming adventure planned, and many of you will already know where this is going. But as part of this, I felt like dabbling in what's called parkrun tourism. I was going to do a parkrun in Perth, and it would be my first non-Stretford parkrun, and I was really looking forward to it. I was looking forward to seeing what it's like going to a different parkrun. But then, as you know, my brain did brain things. On the train the day before the parkrun, I had a hemorrhagic stroke, and I spent 4 or 5 days in hospital. I kind of have no recollection of my time in hospital. I'm not going to dwell on the stroke too much because I've talked about it in last videos, but it meant that I obviously couldn't do parkrun, and I wouldn't have been in a state to do it anyway. But that stroke, it broke me. Weeks passed with like no energy. Parkruns were kind of the last thing on my mind. I say they're the last thing on my mind, but just at the back there was a kind of getting an itch. And over time my energy did come back. But I knew that I couldn't do anything like this until I'd got somebody with a bit of medical knowledge to say, yeah, go and do that. That's a good idea. And I had a routine visit with my GP. And I just jokingly said, I guess I won't be doing any parkruns soon, will I? Fully expecting her, no, don't do that. But no, she said, yeah, go for it. Do that. That's a good idea. If you think you're ready, go and do parkrun. I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I could do it, but I wanted to. My recovery had left me so frustrated. I just felt like I wanted to do something meaningful. And if I could manage 5 weeks after a stroke to run a parkrun, or, well, to be honest, mostly walk a parkrun, that would be one hell of an achievement for me, and I would feel so good, right? So rightly or wrongly, we went back. 5 weeks after my stroke, I went and I did a parkrun. I gave Sarah very strict instructions to run her own run. She's very much enjoying parkrun and is really loving seeing her own improvements, and I didn't want to get in her way, so I was like, you do your thing. And I dragged Kirsty along to run with me just to make sure that everything was safe. So that was Kirsty's first parkrun. And I did it. I walked 5k, and I did it in 44 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, that is my slowest parkrun time, and I'm at peace with that. The main thing for me was that I did it. I knew that I wasn't going to be setting any PBs anytime soon, but I did it, and I felt so good about doing it. And there isn't any amount of descriptions that I could give you that can describe just how that made me feel. I felt so good, and I was so proud of myself. Parkrun, done it. No matter how bad you might feel, you can do the thing. I need to relax. In that moment, it stopped being just a parkrun. That weekly 5k had become a key part of my recovery journey. And I knew it was something that I could just grab onto, kind of no matter how I was feeling, and like literally just run with it. And then a couple of weeks later, we had already booked a holiday before my stroke, and we had decided that we're still going to go on that holiday because kind of getting away will do me good. But it also gave us an opportunity to do that parkrun tourism that I'd been intending to do. We'd gone to Whitby. It wasn't Perth, but it meant we could do the Cinder Track parkrun. And it's the first time I got to experience something that wasn't Stretford. And I went out there. It was the end of the holiday. I could give it everything I had. And I did it in 41 minutes and 50 seconds, quicker than my first parkrun. I was amazed. Like, after like a week's holiday, I could go out and do that. And after I'd had the stroke, I was amazed at my capability. And I think that was one of the first moments that I really realised that I can recover. Like, the one before was almost a fluke, but the fact I was improving showed recovery, and that's when the times really started mattering to me. That became a marker of how I was recovering, how my fitness was going, how the recovery was going. That parkrun gave us the tourism bug, and since then we have gone to a different parkrun every week, and I can see why people do it. Rugby, when we did the quick boat show, that was a struggle. Turns out I'm not so good at hills. There's a hill. I'm not running up that. No. And then with Ensure, I'd improved on my post-stroke PB, but I knew that I wasn't getting any full-on PBs anytime soon. Or was I? Alexandra Park was the first one I was going to on my own. Sarah had to work. I went there with no expectations. Anxiety was there, it was trying to do its thing, but this time anxiety didn't get the better of me. I started to run, and it felt good. The first thing I noticed was I ran further than I ever had done before stopping for a walking break. And the walking breaks were shorter and less frequent. I didn't have that like halfway round, what the hell am I doing feeling. Something had clicked. And I looked at my watch near the end and I was like, hang on, I'm onto something here. So I just got my head down and ran like hell to the end. And I didn't need to check my watch at the end. I knew that was a good time. 39 minutes and 1 second. That was a new PB even before my stroke. That was something that happened that gave me so much joy. The fact that I'd managed to run quicker than I had done before my stroke, the stroke that, by the way, I had thought at the time was like changing my life forever as I knew it, I felt like I was beating the stroke through the medium of running. The emotions, the feelings were off the scale. Because I was on my own, I had nobody to share that with. So I went up to the run director and I told him my story and I told him what had happened. And I just tried to emphasize like how thankful I am to him and all the volunteers for giving up their Saturday morning so that we could do this. And I tried to just be like, this might be a small thing to you, but what you're doing is having a massive, massive positive impact on my life. And since that run, to every parkrun I've been to, I've told my story to the run director and tried to be as thankful as possible and just let them know how much it means to me. 3 weeks of heatwave followed. Congleton, the Whammy, Burnage, they were just too hot to make any significant improvements. My targets became just finish, and rightfully so. That heat was not pleasant. If you tried to run in that, I'm sure you will understand. And the whole not pushing myself in that heat, that feels very sensible of me. Maybe this stroke has changed me. That very nearly brings the story up to date, and I've got one more parkrun to share with you. You might remember at the start I talked about Severn Bridge and how last year I walked across it, and the positive feelings I felt after that were amazing. Last Saturday I rocked up at a tunnel under the M48 that I'd walked under last year to walk to Severn Bridge. This year that tunnel was full of volunteers in pink, a parkrun volunteer sign, and loads of people who were there to run a 5k. We're going down there. It might seem counterproductive to walk down to a tunnel to run across a bridge, but we're going to do Severn Bridge parkrun. Last year I walked this year, excitingly, I'm going to run it. This year I've been fighting a different, more serious battle, and I'm attacking it with what's in my toolbox right now. The run briefing came and went.
So, good morning and welcome to Severn Bridge Parkrun.
We walked up to the start line on top of the bridge. I was in with a crowd of people. I let the fast people go first, as it's kind of like customary to do. This is the first parkrun where I didn't feel anxiety. I felt excitement. I was really excited about what was coming. Before I knew it, we'd started. I'm going to be running across the Severn Bridge. I knew in my head this had been a full circle moment for me, and there were some emotions inside. And we're off. It's going to be windy. The Wales-England border soon came up. This is the only parkrun that runs between two different countries. Yes, I'm counting England and Wales as different countries. What I didn't plan for was the wind. It was very, very windy on the bridge. The wind on the way out kind of helped. The wind on the way back very much hindered me, and it was difficult. I feel absolutely blooming brilliant. Even though walking is faster than when I did this last year. I feel very personal connection to the River Severn. Like further upstream, I grew up fairly near it, and like the bridges, just to and from like childhood holidays and that. To be running on this bridge, it really meant a lot to me. Just over halfway on the Severn Bridge itself, we got to the turnaround point. Be sure to thank Marshall. Thank you, Marshall. I was expecting the part where we were heading back to be the easiest because it was all downhill, but that headwind made it so hard. Oh God, this is bad. This wind is so hard, but that's a final pier. Just ahead is the White Bridge, and then we're back. I went too hard at the start. That was a bad idea. And look at that. How many places can you do this? And we're back in Wales. Less than a kilometre to go. Quite hurt. I just had the realisation I could be on for a PB here. I'm going to put the phone away and just go for it. The last 400 metres. Wish me luck. See you at the end. And so I went for it. I gave that last stretch everything I had. 38 minutes and 12 seconds, which is nearly a minute off my previous PB. That's 6 minutes quicker than the first parkrun that I did after my stroke. To me, that feels phenomenal. Okay, that happened. Yes, it's a run, not a race. I'm only comparing to myself. I kind of had no interest in what times other people there are racing. I've got no interest in my position, but I'm using it as an indicator of just how far my fitness and recovery is coming, and it's a great indicator, and it's a great motivator to keep doing this and to keep trying to build up my energy levels. I'm never going to be a really fast runner, and that's not what it's about to me. It's about just getting out there and enjoying it. Now I've told you my story, I would like to influence you. I would like to use my stroke and its recovery to encourage you. Nearly everybody has one thing that they've really wanted to do for ages, and they keep putting it off because it's intimidating, overwhelming, daunting, but they kind of know deep down it's something that they will enjoy, and if they never get around to doing it, they would regret it. Those feelings are really hard to overcome, and I completely get it, but please, fight as hard as you can to overcome those feelings. Do the thing that you've always wanted to do. In the end, my stroke has ended up being something that I'm probably going to recover from generally, but it's just made me realise just how easily and quickly things can change. And if you're able to, go to at least one parkrun. You can walk it, you can run it slowly, you can run it fast, you can do a mix of all of those things. There's some parkruns out there that are wheelchair accessible, like Alexandra Park in Manchester, for example. But go out there and give it a go. For me, the joy of accomplishing something in the presence of people that are so welcoming and supportive is 100% worth encouraging you guys to do. I wish I didn't let the anxiety win last year, but I'm definitely glad that I didn't let it win this year. So that's my story of how I've become addicted to parkrun. That's my thing. Go out there and do your thing. On that note, there's a link here to the next video I think you should watch, and until next time, bye bye.